Here to provide you with vital metrics for tomorrow's dealer are Les Abrams, Director of Dealer Training and Client Services with Cox Automotive, along with Dick Parrish, Consultant, Dealership Management for NADA. Please give them both a warm welcome.
Today's dealer is data-rich and analysis-poor. Today's dealer is inundated with dashboards, reports, printouts from their website, from their BDC, CRM, OEM, DMS. Where does a dealer begin their analysis? Which metrics are most vital? For this workshop, we have combined the vast resources of NADA and Cox Automotive to distill the most critical metrics for you, the dealer principal, to be monitoring on a regular basis. Further, it is our expectation that we lay the groundwork for you to be able to build an action plan to address the issues that we reveal with you today.
In 2015, NADA engaged McKinsey & Company to do a study to find out what made the difference in dealer profitability from a dealer standpoint that of the average dealer in terms of profitability to those that were the most profitable, the top performers. That year, 2015, the average dealer made 2.2% on sales. McKinsey's study found that the region and the demographics could make up another half a point maybe. Brand or origin might add another 0.6, and the economies of scale could even add 0.8 more. But the biggest driver of all were the operational best practices, the things that were internally done within the dealership, and those driving 2.9% meant that the top 10% of all dealers that year earned 7% on sales. So it was those internal dealership practices, the best practices that were being driven by processes and measured by metrics that really made the difference. So during this session, we're going to talk about those processes and how you can arrange and follow your success with the metrics that you have that we're going to talk about to encourage your people, show them what a good job is, and measure their performance. First of all, we're going to talk about how to achieve excellence in fixed operations. Cox did a study in 2016, and they found that only 41% of the people ever were introduced to the service department at the time of delivery when they were purchasing their new or used car. However, that same study said that 53% of the people thought that would have been important, yet we didn't do it. Further, they found that for people who were turned over and who did get the introduction, they were 1.5 times more likely to return to the dealership for service. So our first vital metric here is turnover at time of the sale is 100%. Now, even if your service department is closed and you've got no one there, you need to have someone from the sales department who knows how to introduce the customer to the when and the how, and also be able to set up their first service appointment. Further study from Cox found that only 25% of the people that owned a new car even kept up with service. So we recommend that everyone have a service BDC. If you don't already have one, we challenge you to open it. And here's why. A third of the people, almost a third, don't even pay any attention to that stuff. And almost half or more than half of the people out there are relying on the dealer or the manufacturer to tell them when and where and what they need to do in terms of service. So it's our opportunity to do it. Yet if we don't have people assigned to make those outbound calls, to bring in that additional business, it's not getting done, and we're missing a lot of business as a result. You know, I think about that BDC and being able to remove a lot of pressure from our service advisors. In fact, one of the other benefits of the BDC is being able to schedule arrivals so that customers are waited upon in a very quick manner by their service advisor. Looking at this screen, it's pretty evident that that service advisor is working at a dealership that doesn't have a service BDC. And for all those people in line, what we're going to see, especially out of the ones that are at the back of the line, are failed CSI reports. Recognize, too, that we've got to give our service advisors time to be able to work with customers. So our recommendation is, another vital metric is that service advisors should not average more than 15 to 18 repair orders a day. Also, they need to make sure that they are working with a customer within the first 5 minutes of the customer's arrival. If there is any way that they don't do that, you need to be able to get someone, a greeter or someone out there to help them. And RFID systems, radio frequency identification, little chips that you can install in the car, will alert your whole staff when any customer's car enters your campus, sending out a notice for others to come out and welcome them to the dealership. There's two ways to handle the customer as far as the transaction. First is doing a walk around. The other is just having the customer drop the keys off and then leave. And there's very, very major reasons that we should do the walk around. I call it pay it forward, because we're going to spend the same amount of time with that customer or on the phone with them. So why don't we spend it in person and develop a trust, a belief, and a reason to do business with us? First of all, with a walk around, I mentioned trust. You're building rapport all that time. So the customer's going to believe you when you make an upsell recommendation, and it's going to be so much easier for you to sell that customer than the other customer who's going to have very little believability if all they've done is just drop their keys off. Further, let's say you find an additional problem with a vehicle, something that you make a service recommendation later for something that you've found that needs to be done. If you've spent the time, if you've developed the rapport, if you've built that trust, you're going to have far higher chance of closing the sale for the recommendation that the customer, for the work the customer needs. Finally, in terms of the getting the ticket paid and the ease of delivery, there's going to be very, very few cases where you have a problem where the customer is upset or doesn't understand the bill, or you have to go into discounting. What is a good walk around? We want to engage the customer to help us. We want them to turn on their lights, their turn signals, hit the brake. We want you to then get that customer out of the vehicle and use them with you to walk around checking the tires, checking all around the car, and even opening the hood. When you open the hood and they look inside at that engine, they are going to be amazed that you know what it is. And that's another part of building the trust, because when they look at it, they know that you know what it is, but they don't. So it's just one more way for you to develop conviction on their part that they brought it to the right people. Also, it's the time then to introduce the multi-point inspection that you do as a courtesy for all of your customers. We recommend that you actually ask permission for it. That way you remove the curse if there's a further problem that multi-point inspection discovers. And when you have asked them permission, many times they'll even ask you, did you find anything about it? Also, with the time that you're spending with the customer, you need to tell them when you are going to get back in touch with them and how you're going to do it. In fact, texting is a wonderful way. It'll save you a lot of time and give the customer immediate information. Also, while you're walking around the vehicle, not only are you going to be making service recommendations, but you're also going to be checking it for any damage to make sure that if there is damage, you have a sales opportunity for your body shop, or on the other hand, at least the customer acknowledges that the car is damaged and isn't blaming you later. Multi-point inspections, too, are very important, that you start when the car is brand new. Sure, when it's new, that's not going to need much, but that's the whole idea. When you are looking at it from the time it's brand new and from the first few visits, the car's going to need very little, and that well baby visit, I call it, will be nothing but just, hey, the car's in great shape and it doesn't need a thing. But then as the car starts to age and get more miles on it, you'll have more sales opportunities then, and you'll have a believability from all the times before when you told the customer how great it was, and now when you're saying, hey, it needs something, Again, it will increase your chance of sale. This is just a table showing that results from about 150 dealers. Essentially, they closed about 50% of their recommended services, and with that, it was about $180 per service, additional service recommendation. And when you figure the gross profit of service on labor and parts combined, it probably generated somewhere about $100 per upsell. We need to measure our technician productivity, and we need to post it too. By posting it weekly and having it in a table so that every technician can see, it drives a lot of peer pressure, but it also gives a report card to everybody to see just how well did I do. The 8-hour technician should be turning 9.6 hours if he's flat rate, and if it's just an hourly paid tech, the guide there is 100%. These are just some of the more of the metrics that we think are very vital in measuring. Some of the things that are important about the BDC is for inbound calls, you should measure those, and you should find that appointments are roughly made in 40% or so of the cases. Also, check the time of the appointment and be sure that the time between 2:30 and 5 when you close are full. That's one of the key areas, because too often that time evaporates, and we want to have 80% of that time closed. We also want you to try to move the newer cars later in the day and the older vehicles earlier, so that if you do find things with your multi-point inspection, you've got time to be able to get the additional service recommendations done and finished in your shop.
Let's switch to variable operations. Job one is commitment to your CRM. Let's say that you have Mary, a salesperson, selling 12 cars a month. You have Jeffrey selling 16 cars a month. What if I were to tell you that Mary sells her 12 cars with 36 prospects, and Jeffrey sells his 16 cars with 100 prospects? The tendency of salespeople that aren't held accountable in some way are to cherry pick the customers. So CRM, commitment to CRM, is an elementary foundational item for you to verify that you are getting the information you need, as well as holding your staff accountable. A quick way for you to verify the level of entry is to take the number of vehicles you sold, multiply it by 3. That should be about the number of be-backs and fresh customers that come into your lot. If you would take the number of sales and multiply it by 7, that should be about the total number of entries into your CRM. So that would include phone calls, emails, chats, texts, all entries together, once again, about 15%. So which would be 1 out of 7, or sales times 7. Question then becomes, how do you get your sales staff motivated to do it? Well, the traditional strategy is you do it or you don't work here. So above that, though, would be you might offer to say, well, we'll offer you deal protection. If you enter your customers into the CRM, then we will make sure that if the customer buys a car, you'll get protection. But I suggest to you that they're much better strategies. And the dealers that have the most success today that we see utilize an attitude where the sales staff wouldn't consider not using the CRM because it is a true business tool for them. So the CRM has the capability of scanning driver's licenses with a cell phone. It has the capability of scanning VINs with a cell phone. It has the capability of, if a customer had entered any data prior to coming in, they could pull that data up. So as a true business tool, the sales staff is motivated to collect this data because it aids them in doing their jobs. Then, once you get good at getting the data put in, now you want to verify that your staff is taking it to the next level, and you can look at something called utilization reports. And utilization reports will let you know that after the customer is placed into the CRM, the CRM will automatically generate next steps. Are your staff following those next steps? And you see some suggested guidelines of what those numbers should look like. Next up, pre-owned. As a dealer today, you need to decide what is your value proposition for your used car department. Your used car department is the engine for so many profit centers in your dealership. To maximize used cars, the strategy we're seeing many dealers use is to recognize that the customers have visibility, so let's adopt a strategy where our vehicles look good online. And the elementary foundational process that comes into play is that the price of your vehicle matches the desirability. There's a balance between the two. There's no such thing as a bad car, there's just a bad price on a car. So when dealers fundamentally recognize that and say, okay, I'm going to make sure that my vehicles have that level of attractiveness online, it lights things up. So a little more advanced strategy that we suggest would be that for the first 20 days, there's no such thing as bucketing, where I'm going to say all my vehicles need to be this relative price to market. For the first 20 days, all vehicles stand on their own. And your relative average of price to market is going to fluctuate depending upon the desirability of your vehicles at that given moment. So for the first 20 days, all vehicles stand on their own, and then you see my other thoughts for you, our other thoughts. After 30 days, certainly it's appropriate to bucket it. Here you think we're looking at 90% of market. Another strategy that needs to be, you might consider looking for, is that offer or manage transactional discount. So of the vehicles that are sold, how much of a discount did the salesperson or sales manager looking at aggregate offer for their set of customers off of the price that the vehicle was listed at? So as you get good at presenting the vehicle online at the correct price, we need to get your sales staff convinced that number will do it, get the job done, and once again, monitor transactional discount. Next, aged used cars. We are about to see a real surge in availability of off-lease vehicles. We're also about to see a potential plateau of new car sales, and this little storm is brewing, and for you dealers that do not have a solid aging policy, now is the time. You cannot get caught without a seat when the music stops on our pretty good used car ride we've been on. So the question then becomes, what strategy do you use? What process do you implement to prevent aged used vehicles from building up? Well, the very basic level that many of you use is a hard turn. So we're going to say at 60 days, the vehicles have to be gone. But the challenge with that is that it doesn't allow for stragglers. I mean, occasionally it takes a little longer to get a vehicle reconned, it takes a little longer to get a part, a little transportation issue. So you want to leave some leeway, and it also doesn't measure what is the most important item or the most important aspect of maximizing used car profitability. So this is what we suggest. Let's manage our aged inventory by looking at what percent of my vehicles were retailed in the first 30 days. So we're going to look at the selling portion and make that the critical item. So you see some good and great statistics there for you to shoot for, to say, okay, we're going to manage our age by measuring how old was the vehicle when it was sold. Secondarily, I'm going to ask you, or we're going to suggest that you relook at how you measure wholesale. Wholesale is going to be divided into two parts. First, we're looking at is aged wholesale, meaning that I looked to retail the vehicle, I attempted to retail it, I did not retail it, I ended up wholesaling it. So top performers keep that number under 10%. When a vehicle is destined for retail, it gets retailed. Then you're going to look at immediate wholesale. A vehicle that was never destined to be retailed, we never tried to retail it, we just went in and wholesaled it immediately. So you see some numbers there. We want to keep that number relatively low. Let's go ahead and retail our vehicles. There is no sense and no need to wholesale them. They're too hard to get. Next up is appraising. So the appraising is where dealers are really differentiating themselves and picking up market share against their competition. So the first metric we'll look at is compare of all the new vehicles I sold, how many had trades? And that number should be around 60-65%. If you're a lot lower than that, you might want to look at why. The other common metric to look at is appraisal to trade ratio. Of all the vehicles we appraised, we new and used trade-ins, how many did we actually get? And you can see that I would suggest the number here is 55%. So why would this number be low? The most common reason that we see is that the sales staff has lost confidence in the used car department. They have had deal after deal where they are on the verge of selling a vehicle, and at the last minute, the customer threw in a trade. And they followed the process, got the trade appraised, presented the numbers to the customer, and the customer didn't buy right away. And they call the customer back the next day, and the customer says, oh, I bought elsewhere. Why? Well, because I got more for my trade. And there's only a certain number of times that happens before the next time a salesperson is presented with a customer saying, should I sell my trade myself? And the salesperson is going to say, yeah, it's probably a good idea. You can get more money for it that way. And they're doing it to protect themselves. So the number one reason is lack of confidence in your sales staff. Next up, aged inventory. So if you have a manager is looking to appraise a vehicle of which they have 3 old ones sitting out on the lot, they're going to say, oh no, not another one of these. And they will indeed be very hesitant to put a strong appraisal on it, which might cost you a new car deal. So next up is the one you're not going to like, and that is hard packs. Hard packs are slowing you down. Hard packs are preventing the managers from putting all the money in the vehicle. Now, it wasn't so bad when all the dealers were using them, but today more and more dealers are recognizing that for them to be ultra competitive, for them to be able to appraise cars for the most amount, then they need to eliminate the hard packs or greatly reduce them to make them more attractive to their customers. So you see, our recommendation is no more than a $200 hard pack. Next up is reconditioning. The area that's toughest for dealers is on older vehicles. You've got a 5 or 6 year old vehicle with pretty good mileage, but still it's going to require a good bit of work in the shop. Retail reconditioning is slowing the manager down from being able to keep this car. They want to keep it, but this recon cost is either they're going to have to put money in the car to make the deal, or they're going to have to wholesale the vehicle. So it's slowing them down, and dealers that are very forward thinking are recognizing that and giving themselves a break on the older vehicles. Next up is spiff or trade. So let's go ahead and offer a spiff for a salesperson on any deal that has a trade. You trade in a car, there's extra money for you. Let's have them working for the deal. In fact, we suggest become a buying center. Buy from the public and offer that same spiff to any employee that sources a piece of inventory for you. So spiff for any employee, including salespeople who trade in cars, to help you get inventory for your used car lot. I mentioned a moment ago that off-lease vehicles, the supply is growing. Similarly, we're seeing the average transaction price for used cars is on a steady rise. So as a dealer, a healthy strategy would be, as a vital metric, look at what is the average price of all the vehicles I have for sale in my used car department, and watch that number very carefully. I know a lot of dealers that watch that number every day, and they're always working on driving that number down. How do I get my average price per vehicle lower than what it is now? Or similarly, if you have a used car tool, you can actually monitor your turn by price band. And keep an eye on this, because the likelihood is that the later model, more expensive vehicles are going to have pretty much of a glut, and the older vehicles are going to be the ones that are going to be extra hard to get to. All right, so in conclusion, job number one, invariable, commitment to your CRM. Then beyond that, here are your vital metrics for the rest of your used car department.
We're going to talk now about how to get excellence in profitability with new cars, F&I, and leasing. First of all, another service metric that we should be looking at is how well we retain our customers. I know we talked about service before, but it's essential in the sale of additional new and used cars to be able to have satisfied customers. 85% of the customers responding to a survey said that they would consider buying another vehicle from that dealer. Those were customers who were satisfied and regular service customers, and other surveys have shown the same thing. So it's vital to make sure that we are tracking our retention and that our customers are happy. One of the key drivers of that, of course, are the two people that come in contact with them, our salespeople and our service advisors. And unfortunately, those are the two highest turnover positions within the whole dealership. For help, consider using the NADA Dealership Workforce Study. It will specifically look at your operation, compare you to your region, and maybe give you some clues on things that you could do to retain your people better. Maybe some other ideas too for salespeople. What about their hours? As we're trying to attract more and more millennials now, you're sure not going to get the millennials to work the long hours that we have some of our other seasoned vets working. And you're not going to find many that are going to be working strictly commission. So we recommend that maybe you have a base salary and pay bonuses or spiffs for volume performance or for particular activities. In fact, for volume, the average salesperson should be selling 13 units plus. Service advisors, too, need training. We seldom give them training, and many dealers don't recognize that the average service advisor generates twice as much dealership gross profit as the average salesperson does. Yet, without that training, we're not giving them the tools to go out and do the best job they can. We talk about having daily sales meetings with our salespeople, but shouldn't we be doing a daily sales meeting with our service advisors too? 5 or 10 minutes early in the morning is great, and we can review some of the key metrics that we're probably paying them on. Things like flat rate hours produced, effective labor rates, or what about the commodities, the wiper blades and cabin air filters that we expect them to sell? We also are seeing our sales margins squeezed and tightened, and as we have had more and more reliance on achieving profitability, or at least survival, by virtue of our F&I departments. In fact, in 2015, 43% of the dealership gross generated in sales of new and used cars came from F&I products, and selling those products is key. So we've got to give our F&I managers time to spend with the customer. We recommend that the average finance manager should be doing no more than 65 to 70 deals a month. And further, we need to emphasize products. We should pay more on products than we do on finance reserve. And our vital metric here is for every 100 cars you sell, you should be selling 150 products. Also, you want to control the finance, and if you need to finance 75% or more of your deals so that they're not going somewhere else and maybe having problems before you're able to deliver the vehicle. Also, measure and reward your F&I people on how much cash they are able to get with the deal too. Not only does this make more gross, but it also could aid in getting some units financed. Just some more metrics here. The top two are most important. The standard for our vehicle service contracts for new vehicles is 55% plus. In fact, in 2015, the average dealer did 43%. Are you even average? Also recognize that whether it's the new service contract or the used should be about 10% more than new, depending upon the price range of the vehicles that you sell. But regardless of whether it's a new service contract or a used service contract, it wraps the customer into your service department. 80% plus of all repairs done under extended service contracts are done where the customer buys that insurance. We're also struggling now because as car transaction prices has risen and risen so much, customers are spending a very high amount of their disposable income. In 2016, the last quarter, we believe that the average car payment will exceed $500. $500 a month is a lot of money, so what we've been doing is we've been trying to spread out their payments over a longer term, but now we can't get the gains from that because we have so many customers already in longer terms. In fact, that's one of the problems that we have made for ourselves, that we can't get them traded out of them because they don't have equity now until 44 months, and that's before we started financing them for 84 months and maybe sometimes even more. Of course, many of you have gone to leasing. The market has. 33% roughly of all of our cars sold the last quarter of 2016 were leased. Are you leasing? You need to measure your lease performance and see what you can do to improve it. First of all, you need to train your sales staff, your sales managers, on being able to explain to a customer the benefits of leasing, to be able to have a conversation that then can be followed up with facts that you would show at a point of purchase, say, on each vehicle, have a sticker, and that when you're presenting a deal, when you're presenting a payment to a customer, also present a lease payment too, so that then you can show them the opportunities. Of course, one of the great things about leasing today, most customers opt for 36 to 39 months, so you know when that vehicle's going to come back, and you're going to get a newer vehicle that's going to be very sellable. So you need to make sure that you assign someone within your staff to be your portfolio manager, to know and follow up with all of those customers when they're 6, 7, 8 months before their lease termination, so that you're in touch with them before one of your competitors is, and even before that customer has started to enter the market and look at other vehicles and other makes. That data mining, I love this slide because the gold mine that you're sitting on is your customer files and your database. Dealers that are most successful doing this are having dedicated teams that are actually getting in touch with the customer, calling and asking if they can buy their vehicle. They're protecting their tenured salespeople, but many times they're finding their best success out of customers who are coming in for service anyway. If you've got your BDC and if you're scheduling your appointments, you know when the customers are coming in, and you know the specific cars, and you have in your database, and even some estimations on cars maybe that you didn't sell, who is coming in, what type of vehicle they have, and where your best opportunities are. A good metric to use here is that roughly 2 to 4% of the number of repair orders that you have each month should relate to a sale. If you're doing 25 repair orders a month, 25 repair orders a day, you're doing 500 repair orders a month. So your target metric there is to sell 10 to 20 additional vehicles out of your data mining program. Again, just some of the guides that we've got here. For leasing, the big thing that you need to do to track your leasing and put a metric there is to see how other dealers in your state and in your area are doing, as well as what the manufacturer's numbers are achieving.
Our next topic is digital marketing excellence. Before spending money on digital marketing, there are foundational elements that need to be in place for you to maximize your spend. First up is your website. Your website needs to be able to provide customers, visitors, with the information they are looking for. The best place to start this is with the mobile version of your website. You, the dealer principal, need to be familiar with how a website is measured for providing customers with what they are looking for. So and once again, start with the mobile version. As you get your website gets good at providing the information that customers are looking for, it'll then be good at converting. And here you see some sample conversions that provide leads. So once again, you're going to get your website ready first, throwing off conversions, and as these conversions are created, they feed into your CRM. And here you see these are the processes that are very measurable at your dealership level to ensure that you are getting the maximum return on your leads that are coming into your website. And you notice at the bottom, the number there is 15%. So for every 100 leads that come into the system, you're going to sell about 15%, or as we discussed earlier, that's 1 in 7. And you can verify that your CRM systems are healthy by taking the number of vehicles you sold, multiplying it by 7, and then comparing it to this number here. All right, it is now, and it is only now, that you have these foundational processes in place that it makes sense for you to go ahead and spend some money. Because you know, as you are placing money into the system, doing your promotions, running your display ads, that the leads that are, or the activity that comes to your website will result in and you being able to maximize those opportunities and sell vehicles. In examining attribution, as a dealer, you would like to know which specific marketing resulted in the sale. And there's problems in trying to ascertain this. So you see here that it's pretty well understood that at least 90% of customers are doing some sort of research. But here, another study that reveals the similar stats is that 56% of them in this study just show up. So as these web properties get better and better at answering customers' questions, and customers are more and more confident that the information they're getting from these sources, including your website, the more likely they are to just show up. So as a dealer, how do you then attribute what's working and what's not working? Well, at the very basic level, we said to our sales staff, okay, before the customer leaves, just say, oh, by the way, what brought you in today? And customers often misinterpret the question, and they might, while you're asking for marketing attribution, they don't understand what you're saying, and they might say, oh, I told you my car was stolen, I took a cab. Or we see things like customers saying they were drive-by, walk-in, and then some dealers are at least getting honest with themselves and putting an entry into the CRM where saying the salespeople were just too lazy to ask. But in the salesperson's defense, this is a very complex question. So here's a Google study that looked at the average customer has 24 touch points, 19 of them digital. So here, let me show you some potential examples. So here's hypotheticals. So a couple is having breakfast. They decide, okay, we would like to let's go ahead and get a nice 7-passenger SUV. And they go onto a research site and they compare all the 7-passenger SUVs that are available, and they decide that, hey, this particular one fits their needs. So they follow a link from the research site. They go to the manufacturer's website, do some more research there, and say, yeah, this looks good. Then the squiggle lines mean they take a little break. So a couple of weeks go by, and one of the two of them goes on to a research and review site. And they read reviews about the vehicle. Customers really like this vehicle. It gets great reviews. And they happen to notice there are dealership reviews. And they look at the dealership reviews and they say, oh gosh, this dealer is getting great reviews. We probably want to buy the car there. Then you see squiggle lines, another break, another few weeks go by, and they say, okay, it's time. They go onto Google, search that dealer's name, get their phone number, call the dealer, make an appointment, go in and buy the car. So who gets credit for the sale? Or what about another example here would be that they started an online classified site. They compare vehicles, they see something they like, they go to the OEM website, they take another break, then they go onto YouTube, and you, the same dealer, we're running an ad on YouTube, customer clicked the ad, went to your website, made an appointment, came in and bought the car. Or how about even one that's a little more complex, but still very common? Start at the OEM website, go to a research website, narrow it down, you have the vehicle the customer wants, they go to your website, the dealer's website, have a great experience, you get everything they want, but they were just rushed, they didn't submit a lead, and then a week later they go onto a pay-per lead or a pay-per-sale site, and they submit a lead there, come in and buy the car from you. So the most common strategies that dealers are using now to measure this is called last click attribution. What is the very last place the customer was just prior to the purchase? So a little more advanced than that would be using what's called referrals. What's the website that they were on just prior to coming to my website? But the good news is this. You are about to get visibility into the entire path that a customer took and be able to use this data to help you to determine what is your most effective marketing channels. The industry hasn't quite decided on a name yet. We like Assist, others are using multi-point attribution, so it's once again, there's different technologies, different ways of looking at it, but the bottom line is you are about to get access to the path that a customer took and all the entities that a customer went to prior to purchasing a vehicle from you. So your reports would look something like this. Currently, you're looking at data like this, which would be cost per lead and then cost per sale. Well, added on to that now, you're going to get what I'm going to call, for right now, an assist. So of the customers that you sold cars to, what web properties did they look at? And in this case, we're saying they had 1,300 touch points in aggregate. So let's drill into some individual marketing channels and see what they might look like. We'll look at a couple of extreme ones first. So let's look at line B here. So here, on line B, you spent, 6% of your spend here, and it produced no leads. You didn't get a single lead here. But if you look, 23% of all your assists happen on this website. A lot of your customers that buy cars from you go here. They're finding something valuable there, and it's moving them along the funnel. So at first blush, this would be something you'd probably want to keep supporting. So look at the other extreme, line E. So here's a spend you have that produces almost no assist. Your customers are not going there for information, but on the other hand, it has a 70% close ratio. Of all the leads they're sending you, you're selling these people, so it would make sense for you to probably keep this. But the reality is most of your marketing falls in the middle. Most of your marketing has two benefits. It produces leads, but it also moves the customer along the journey to purchase. And this new data is going to let you know and let you weigh those two together and make intelligent decisions about your spending. So it includes your website. Your website does the same function. It provides customers with the information they need as well as giving you leads. So these two together, once again, become nicely measurable. There's another measurement tool that is available right now. And this one, you can talk to your vendors. It's available. It's very cool. So it's called Website Visit Quality Score, or Click Quality. So there are activities that occur just short of an actual conversion. The customer doesn't actually submit an email or call the dealership, but there's things that they would do on your website that are just short of that would indicate the customer's gotten what they want. A great example would be visits to your Maps and Directions page. If a customer visits the Maps and Directions page, clearly they've had their questions answered and are prepared to take an action. So if you get visitors to your website that visit your Maps and Directions page, you want to get more of those. So the way this will work is that you will be able to, let's say, run a new car lease special for my example here, and you placed it on multiple places, you'd be able to watch it through the system and then eventually get a score. And you can say, okay, I want to start doing more of the marketing that brings that A score customer to my website and a lot less of the C's. So because once they get there, they're barely engaging with the website and probably just leaving. So once again, you can reinforce what's working. So these two together will allow you to start really zeroing in on making great marketing decisions. Next up, digital retailing. The ability for a customer to engage, and transact a deal from anywhere, at any time, in any order. So they can start from their house with the F&I, they can move on to the vehicle, they can come back to the trade, they can do it from their house, they can do it from Starbucks, they can do it from the dealership, the salesperson can do it with them, the salesperson doesn't have to be with them. It gives the customer the ability to pick and choose how they want to go about buying a car. So the early adopters have already gotten through this, and the customers love it. The research is the idea of letting customers having access to make these decisions on their own, doing this research on their own, it's taking root. And our prediction to you is that in a few years, at some point, you'll all be on it. So it is a difficult culture change for your dealership. And I urge you to start adopting these, if necessary, just one by one. So appraisal, for example, trade appraisal. Can a customer appraise a trade on your website? So do you offer that service? And as you can build up to these and start once again doing them one at a time. And then the vital metric that you'll get used to will be, okay, how much usage is this tool getting? And then even more advanced, how long does it take somebody to get through it? I want to make it really easy for them to get through it. So once again, digital retailing is coming, and I urge you to examine it and decide which processes you want to start with and get this going at your dealership. It has some really nice benefits too, over and above the obvious. One of them is customers really complain about how long it takes to buy a car. You are getting some poor satisfaction scores over the length of time it takes to complete a transaction. So having the customer complete significant portions of the transaction prior to coming to the dealership will really help you on this aspect of your satisfaction scores. The additional, really gigantic benefit is you will be able to take your very highly paid sales staff and make them much more efficient than they are. If a customer is completing portions of the transaction prior to coming to the dealership, it allows them to move for them to move a lot quicker once they're there. So the whole system speeds up. And here you see a measurement that of cost of gross per employee. And they're taking all your gross, dividing it by all your employees. So you'll see your gross per employee, your efficiency. In this day of compressed margins, this is a strategy to address the compressed margins by, once again, making your staff that much more efficient. A nice benefit of digital marketing. So in conclusion, first up, your website effectiveness, begin with the mobile version. Go on there yourself. Get your phone out. Go on your website. Interact with your own website. See what it's like. Would you do it? Would you submit a lead on your own website? How do your vehicles look? How easy is it for you to find the vehicles? Become knowledgeable on the metrics of website success, especially, once again, on the mobile. So then beyond that, there's a whole new variety of ways for you to measure marketing effectiveness. And then lastly, time to embrace digital retailing.
So where are your greatest opportunities? Multipoint inspections? Commitment to your CRM? What about data mining? And are you up to speed in digital retailing? You need to be sure that you get all of these processes in place right away. Because if you don't, you're going to find that you'll be left behind as further advancements come aboard. I want to leave you, though, with one thought that represents the fact that this isn't the same car business of just a few years ago. This was a quote by one of this year's esteemed Nobel Prize winners. "You better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times, they are a-changin'." Thank you.